Live with CDP, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast live on YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitter, and on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, and Anchor FM. Now here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Live with CDP Sports Talk, Season 5, Episode 9, 229 overall. Again, Live with CDP Sports Talk is brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership, 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for their newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824 0210 and tell them that CDP, aka Chris Palme, sent you there as well. And also, guys, you can order the pre-order the all-electric Silverado or the all-electric Cadillac Lyric as well. Again, I want to say thank you to Barry Cullen Chevrolet for sponsoring Live with CDP Sports Talk. And good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming on this Monday, December 19th, 2022. And I'm looking forward to my guest tonight. His name is Jason Feirman. He is the host of the Power 32 podcast, which is NFL talk, and also a co-host and owner of the Third and Three podcast as well. And he's a San Francisco 49er fan. So I'm going to have Jason come on tonight, talk about his podcast shows, how he started them up, and also about some NFL news, and also about the San Francisco 49ers. So just bear with me, guys, and I'm going to bring Jason Feirman on right now. Good evening, Jason. How you doing?
Hey, Chris. What's happening, man? I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Did I get your last name right?
Yeah, you're one of the few who did, actually. Is it Feirman? Good job, man. A lot of people go Feirman. You know, you can only imagine what I've heard. So you got it right.
I cheated. I like to go on YouTube sometimes if I'm not sure how my guest's last name is, and see if I can work with them on YouTube and just how the name is pronounced as well. Because I try to pride myself on getting people's names right.
That's a smart guy. That's a good way to do it. Very sneaky, but I like it.
Yes, you learn all this stuff. And like I said, I really appreciate you coming on tonight, Season 5, Episode 9. What a crazy weekend of NFL football, Jason.
Oh, my God. What a weekend is right. It could go down in history as one of the most amazing weekends. And if you include the real football, the World Cup, that was amazing also. I mean, really the greatest comeback, or maybe, I don't know, Chris, is it the greatest comeback or the greatest collapse of all time, Indy and Minnesota? I don't know what to call it.
I got a story to share with you. Ironically, my first NFL game in Buffalo was September 26, 1997, the Bills and the Colts. And the Colts were up 26-0 at halftime with Jim Harbaugh. Buffalo had Todd Collins, who was a replacement for Jim Kelly. And everybody's like, let's leave. And I'm like, no, this game's not over. There's still a half of football to go. And Buffalo came back and won that game 37-35 against Jim Harbaugh's Colts. And that was considered one of the greatest comebacks as well. And I tell people at sporting events, don't leave until the last second, until it says 0. You just never know in the world of professional sports. And I'm glad that day I stayed to the end of the game to see a great second half and finish to a game.
Absolutely. Yeah. History shows now, really, don't leave the game. Stick around. You never know what's going to happen, as proof on Sunday, even with the New England Vegas game. I mean, you never know what's going to happen in football. That's why it's the greatest sport.
They should change the name of the NFL to the No Lead is Safe League.
Yeah.
Literally.
That's true. I mean, really, we've had some amazing comebacks, and unfortunately, Matt Ryan is on the losing end of 2 of them now. Too bad.
Unfortunately, he's had a very good career. I'm not sure he's Hall of Fame caliber, in my opinion. He's had a very good career, like Phillip Rivers, but I think he's going to unfortunately be defined by those 2 comeback losses.
Yeah, those are going to stand out more than anything. And I like your comparison to Phillip Rivers. I think they're pretty much around the same tier, whatever you want to call it. But I'm not sure that they're both borderline Hall of Famers for me. I mean, neither one of them won a Super Bowl. Phillip Rivers never even got to a Super Bowl, and he had really good teams around him. I think there's something to be said for that. So, yeah, I'm not sure about those guys. Look, Hall of Fame should be for the greatest of all time, not for just guys who put up a lot of great numbers during the regular season and did nothing during the playoffs.
I find all the Hall of Fames except for baseball I think Cooperstown and baseball, the Baseball Hall of Fame is obviously the toughest one to get into, but
Yeah.
I just find the Hockey Hall of Fame and the other Hall of Fames are a lot easier than Cooperstown, in my opinion.
They are, for whatever reason, I'm not sure, but it kind of pisses you off a little bit because you want to see guys who have been on the ballot for Cooperstown for like 10, 12 years. It's like, well, what are they doing? Like a guy like Fred McGriff, who just finally
Yeah.
got in, I mean, it's weird how they do it, but I do have respect for it more because they really do reserve it for the greatest and also the people who don't cheat as well.
Being a longtime Detroit Tigers fan since 1979, I want to see Lou Whitaker in because Lou Whitaker is one of the greatest second basemen. I think he's in the top 10 at least. And it's just a shame they won't put him in. And they should have put him in with Trammell and Morse a couple years ago because I was a huge fan of that Tigers team in 84 when they went 104 and 58. Unfortunately, being in Detroit, I don't think he got the recognition that he would have got playing in New York, Chicago, or Boston. But I really hope one day Cooperstown gets him in the Hall of Fame because he has Hall of Fame numbers.
Oh,
Offensively.
I totally agree with you. Actually, I remember even playing RBI baseball in it for Nintendo in like 1986 and using that Detroit Tiger team. And I'm like, wow, these guys got a bunch of good hitters, man. Like, it's a good team over here.
But hey, it just shows you. I thought they were going to win 2, 3 World Series titles in the 80s, but it just shows you how hard it is to win championships. And being a Niners fan, now you got to really appreciate that dynasty more because back in the 80s, you won 4, and then the early 90s, you won another one for 5. And you're thinking, oh, this is a piece of cake. But look, it's been 25 years now, I think, since the Niners last won.
Yes, too long, and we've been to 2 others since then and lost both of them, and they are just gut-wrenching. They're awful. I'd rather not even make it to the Super Bowl. It's such a horrible feeling to lose after knowing nothing but winning, being 5-0, and then playing Baltimore, and then obviously a couple of years ago against the Chiefs. Just terrible. Terrible.
And then look at Denver. They lost their first 4 or 5 Super Bowls, and then they won their last 3 Super Bowls back to back with John Elway, and then with Peyton Manning as well. So, but this is going to be an interesting playoff year, definitely. And I do have some NFL news I wanted to share with you as well. You probably already hear of it, but the Eagles have announced Jalen Hurts is uncertain to play Saturday against Cowboys. Sprained shoulder injury against the Bears. I saw the hit. And as much as I love Hurts, his mobility and being able to run with that ball, it was just a matter of time, unfortunately. And hopefully this isn't going to affect him the rest of the year.
Yeah, same thing happened to Justin Fields a couple of weeks ago where he got taken down and he hurt his shoulder as well. I really hope not because, Hurts is having an MVP year. He's got the Eagles #1 seed, best team in football, in my opinion, right now. And I kind of want to ride that because I picked the Eagles to represent the NFC, to go to the Super Bowl this year. So I'm feeling good about it. But on the other hand, they're I don't want to call them lucky. They're so good and they have such a large lead that they don't need to rush Hurts back. They just need to make sure he's okay. So you know what? Put Gardner Minshew in there for a couple of games. No problem. All you have to do is win 1 out of the last 3. So unless Hurts is 85, 90, even really 100%, I'm not touching it. I'm waiting. They got a solid team. They're probably going to have, again, the bye in the first round. Just wait it out. He is the key to everything.
Totally agree with you. The only reason I would kind of be hesitant is because it is against the Dallas Cowboys. If it was against the Saints or the Giants, I would say absolutely. But I'm just wondering if Hurts has the final say or the management. Because obviously you want the #1 seed, you want the NFC East title, but you want Hurts to be as healthy as possible for the playoffs, for the divisional game, and then if they can make it to the NFC Championship game as well.
Exactly. Yeah, no, you need him healthy because look, Gardner Minshew, he can be a wonderful backup, but he's a backup for a reason. Jalen Hurts right now is leading the MVP conversation. All right, he's leading the debate. So you take him off that team, they're no longer a Super Bowl contender, in my opinion. So basically, just like you said, wait it out. You have to wait it out. They have a 3-game cushion right now. They really have nothing to worry about. Jalen Hurts isn't going to miss a beat if he misses a couple of weeks. Just let him chill, get his shoulder right, and then he comes back and Philly will be just fine.
I always was thinking Josh Allen would be the first one to get it because Josh Allen's even more of a physical runner than Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
And Allen, he takes a lot of those hurdles and lots of shots. And I'm really surprised for Buffalo's sake he hasn't been hurt because, like you said, if you want to win in the playoffs, you need that franchise quarterback. But then the Eagles in 2017 lost Carson Wentz with a torn ACL, and even myself gave the Eagles no chance in the playoffs, and Nick Foles came in and did a great job. And that should give 49er fans hope as well. Was Brock Purdy, I think.
Yeah,
That
Purdy. Yeah, Brock Purdy. It ain't Purdy, but we're winning.
And what I like about him, they're not making him do more than he can do. They're having a balanced running attack with McCaffrey, and their offense is balanced. Like I was looking at their numbers against Seattle, they had 180 yards rushing and 211 passing, and that's how you win in the playoffs is with a two-dimensional balanced offense.
Yeah, the reason why the 49ers will have such a good chance going forward in the playoffs and possibly making it to the Super Bowl is not because of Brock Purdy. It's because of their offensive and defensive line, which are playing out of their minds right now, much like Philadelphia. Again, Jalen Hurts is great. A.J. Brown is great. Miles Sanders is great. Devontae Smith is great. But the reason why they're winning is because they have the top 3-4 best offensive and defensive lines in the league. And that's what the Niners have. And that's why we're able to run the ball so well, get so creative, use so much motion. The 49ers can travel anywhere. Look, they went to Green Bay and won in that frigid, disgusting temperature last year. They went to Dallas, beat them there, and they almost beat the Rams, should have beat the Rams if it wasn't for a dropped interception. So the Niners got the goods, and we don't have to rely on our quarterback to be the guy. We're one of the few teams in the league that is one of the best full teams, defense, offense, special teams, everything, playmakers all over, Debo, Kittle, McCaffrey, everything. So again, Brock Purdy, easier said than done, but just go manage the game and we can win. And I hate to I'm not going to make the comparison, but it does remind you of Tom Brady when he comes in his second year. And, obviously Mo Lewis knocks out Drew Bledsoe, and Brady wasn't anything special. He just managed the game and he did what he had to do. And he really did that for the first 3 years of his career. And then he became Tom Brady. So why not Brock Purdy?
I was at Tom Brady's first NFL game in July 2000 at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. I ended up having food poisoning, but I'm glad my friend Todd, he's a Niners fan, he dragged me to the game even though I was sick, and I kept the ticket stub, and I've even been offered $400 or $500 for it. And when Brady played that game against the Niners, ironically, he was the fourth-string quarterback behind Bledsoe, Michael Bishop, who was a CFL star here, John Freeze, and then Brady came in the second half. The game was on Monday Night Football, and Brady was impressive. He was making the right reads, the right throws, and he moved the ball on the 49ers team back then, even in a preseason game.
Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. And that's it. Sometimes guys just need a shot to get in there. And you know what? We drafted Trey Lance for him to be the guy of the future. But if Brock Purdy's going to play well and not mess things up, it'll be his team. And there will be a quarterback battle next year.
Going to ask you this as a Niner fan. Obviously, Jimmy G is going to probably move on next year. What happens if the Niners have playoff success? What do they do with Trey Lance next year? Do they bring him back as a number one, or do they trade him? Like, there's going to be some decisions they're going to have to make in the offseason, depending on what they do in the playoffs.
Yeah, the thing is they're not going to have any trade value for him whatsoever. So trading him is out of the question because there's nothing to go on. So we're going into next season, no matter what Brock Purdy does this year, we're going into next season with the mind that Trey Lance is going to be our number one guy and have Brock Purdy as our backup if he continues to play this way. Because look, we spent way too much draft capital given to Miami and everything to just say, you know what? To heck with Trey Lance. This thing isn't going to work out. They have to give him a legit shot at being the number one guy over there because they saw something in him to trade up so much to go and get him and pick him with the number 3 overall pick a couple of years ago. So they have to go into that mindset no matter what Brock Purdy does. I mean, look, maybe it's a different story if the guy lights it up. He goes 30 for 35, throws for 350 yards and, 3 touchdowns, no picks. If he's doing stuff like that, then we got a big conversation. But unless he absolutely lights it up, then Trey Lance will be our number one guy going into next year.
And I'm going to tell you this too, being a Michigan Wolverines fan, Toronto Argonaut fan in CFL, the Argonauts this year won the Grey Cup, but during the game in the third quarter, their starting quarterback, McLeod Thompson, who was in the NFL a few years ago, got hurt, and they had to bring in Chad Kelly, the nephew of Jim Kelly. He's playing up here now, and he came in the fourth quarter in a Grey Cup championship game, and he did his job, and he led the Argonauts to a Grey Cup win. My point here is even in the CFL, the NFL, college football, you have to have at least 2 quality quarterbacks, possibly 3, because you just never know with injuries during a season.
Absolutely agree. Look what's going on in Baltimore right now. Lamar Jackson's out. They got Tyler Huntley. They can't move the ball at all. I mean, you can just look around all over the league. What happened to Matt Stafford? He's gone. The Rams can't score, So absolutely, if you don't have a viable backup quarterback, then you're in trouble. Your season is gone. And that's why the 49ers are able to stay put right now and do their thing, because they have a guy who they believe in and is doing a good job.
What's the latest on their injury situation and with Deebo Samuel? I'm a fan of his. Even though I'm an Eagles fan, I'm a huge fan of Deebo Samuel, and I think he's a huge asset with that team if he can come back at some point this season.
It's hard not to be a fan of that guy. The way that he plays football with so much heart, passion, the strength, everything that he gives out. It's amazing to watch him because he can literally do everything. He can even pass the ball. He threw for a touchdown earlier this year. The guy's amazing. It's going to be a couple of weeks probably before he gets back, but the 49ers are very comfortable right now. They got their division. We're going to the playoffs. They're probably going to be the third seed. So again, just like with Philadelphia, a different position, obviously, but almost equally as important Deebo is to the team. No reason at all to rush him back. Let Purdy get comfortable, do his thing. 49ers are going to run the ball 65% of the time, and that's the way it's going to be from now until we're done with the season. So, no, bottom line is, rest Deebo as long as possible because we're going to need him in the playoffs more than anybody on the offense, probably even more than McCaffrey. We're going to need him.
So the Niners are right now, the fourth seed in the NFC?
They're the third seed because Tampa
seed?
Bay is terrible at the with the NFC South. They're like 6 and 8, garbage.
I got to ask you this: in your time watching football, have you seen a division as bad as the NFC South is this year?
Look, I've seen a few times where the NFC West, my division was terrible. Like when the Seahawks won the division at 7-9, going back 10 years ago, when Marshawn Lynch had that huge game against New Orleans in beast mode, where he basically erupted the entire stadium on that run. So I've seen some pretty crappy divisions. The AFC South comes to mind, but this is bad. I mean, we're talking every team is below 500. Not just that, but 2 games below 500 is the best. And it's funny how Carolina, the Panthers, who are in last place right now in that division and control their own destiny. I can't figure this out. It is the weirdest thing.
Yes or no, the NFL needs to look at a division winner being guaranteed a playoff home game if they're under 500.
Yeah, I think they need to look at that. I think what would be better, to be honest, is I'm an advocate for the best teams should get in. And that's why I'm going to juxtapose this to fantasy football for a minute. As much as I love fantasy football head-to-head matchups, if you do rotisserie, you find out who the best team really is, who has the most points throughout the year. So what I'm getting at is, instead of having 4 divisions, which really sours down the division leader because there's only 4 teams per division, go for 2 conferences. AFC, NFC, 7 best teams from each conference gets in. No division, doesn't matter. I think that'd be the way to do it.
Scrap the divisions. And I know with the CFL, there's only 9 teams, but they have 4 in the East and 5 in the West. And to me, get rid of it and just go with 9 teams. They're trying to get a 10th team in Halifax on the East Coast. But to me, I've been advocating that for the CFL. And what you just suggested there, Jason, I totally agree with you there.
No doubt, man. Yeah, that again, you want the best teams in. Look, we do see upsets sometimes, like that game that I mentioned. Seattle ended up beating New Orleans in that game, even though they were 7-9. I think New Orleans was like 11-5 or whatever that year. So yeah, we're going to see. But you know what? Is it fair? No, Seattle did not deserve a home game against New Orleans that year. That was ridiculous, insane. So they got it. They got a little lucky. Whatever. Bam. No, I just go for the conferences. And look, if you want to have divisions, then mess around with the rule, like you said. And if you're not over 500, then you don't get in. Something like that, because a team like Tampa, Carolina, Atlanta, whoever's coming out of that division, New Orleans, none of them deserve to be in.
Thoughts on the overtime situation right now? It used to be 15 minutes, and then they decided, let's cut it to 10. I do like the fact if one team scores a field goal, you're not finished. You get an opportunity with the ball. But what are your thoughts on the current overtime situation?
I'll tell you, my co-host hated, especially Nikki. She says, go until, the game is over, until somebody scores, no ties. She doesn't want any ties. And you know what? I can't stand ties either, but I'm going to be realistic, man. I've played football, but not on that level, obviously. You're tired. After the fourth quarter, you are drained of energy, especially if you're playing like in a really hot weather game, or if it's freezing outside and you can barely, your muscles are cramping up on you and everything like that. You don't want to play anymore. You are physically drained. You're beat. So do I want to see ties? No. I would keep the NFL rules the way that they are now. If you score a touchdown, bam, you win. A field goal, the other team gets a chance. If they don't get it, you win. So I really wouldn't change it. even though I don't want to see ties, I feel for the players and I understand that the game cannot go on forever. It's not like baseball, or even basketball for that matter, where you can have like a lot of different subs coming in at different times. Can't do it.
I agree with you, except I don't want to see them go to a skills competition like hockey in the shootout. It's a
Oh,
terrible way to decide a sport. I'm not saying I like ties by any means, but man, to decide a team sport on an individual skills competition is wrong. And I'm just worried the NFL might like, okay, we're gonna have a field goal kicking contest or
oh,
something stupid like that. I'm not a soccer fan, and I understand why they do it in soccer. I just don't want to see some kind of skills competition to decide an NFL game in the
that would be
ever.
the worst thing that the NFL could ever possibly do. Because number one, they need to take the foot out of football to begin with. There is way too much. Kickers are involved way too much in the game, and they only come in for what? I mean, if you total up the amount of time a kicker is actually on the field, it's probably about 45 seconds. And they control so much of the game, it makes me sick. I wish kicking was out of the game completely, Chris. I hate it, hate it, hate it that we have to rely on kickers to come out there who have no football skill whatsoever, who grew up kicking a soccer ball and decided, oh, I can make a lot of money in the NFL and miss half the time they go kick a field goal. It drives me crazy. I can't stand it.
There's been a couple of them that have actually learned how to tackle. I know Mike Vanderjagt, when he played, he wasn't afraid to get dirty, and there's a couple other guys as well. But yeah, you just never want to. As a Eagles fan, I like Jake Elliott, but I don't want our championship season decided on a field goal. Look at the Buffalo Bills; they lost Super Bowl 25 because their kicker missed a 47-yard kick. The
That's
weather was good in Tampa; it was on a grass field, and he missed a 47-yard kick, and that was a terrible way to lose a Super Bowl
oh,
off a missed field goal kick.
oh, awful, awful. I mean, he was just like the most hated man in the entire world at that point. If you were a Buffalo Bills fan, you never heard from Scott Norwood after that ever again. It was like he disappeared off the face of the earth. Scott Norwood felt so bad. And you know what? A 47-yard field goal is not a chip shot. He did not deserve all the criticism that he got.
Yes.
So I felt really bad for the guy.
Yeah. And I was going to say that was one of the best Super Bowls as well. But you just don't want to see a Super Bowl decided on a field goal kick. But it is part of the game as well. I was going to ask you, Jason, my audience is in Ontario. I'm just outside of Toronto. Can you just tell my audience a little bit about yourself? And when did you decide to start up your own podcast shows, the Power 32 show and the Third and Three show with Nikki and I believe it's Damon?
Yeah,
Damon?
Damien. Yep, they're great. I love the show because of them. It's awesome. But I got to tell you how it started out. When I was young in my 20s, I was calling in sports radio shows, talking to Mike Francesa in New York all the time. And I'm like, this is a lot of fun. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this. So a buddy of mine, long story short, a buddy of mine, we decided that we were going to hang up all our jerseys and all our sports, memorabilia all over the place. And we're going to do a video. We're going to do an actual show. So we did on YouTube. And this is going back to like 2010, 2009, 2010. We were doing shows on YouTube and people were watching and we were having like over 1,000 people watching. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? This is crazy. So it was great while it was going on. Unfortunately, I had moved to Florida, so we had to, split. There was no way that we could do the show visually anymore. But what I got introduced to was Blog Talk Radio, where we had people actually calling in. And this is going back again, 2011, 2012. So where podcasts weren't really that popular yet, it's like we were the shit. So me and my buddy Lamont Broadus, we're doing a show just like we're doing right now, talking sports. And we have this thing, a dial-up thing, and all of a sudden phone calls are coming up. Boom, 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 boom. And we're taking phone calls like, hello, all right, what do you like a regular sports show? Like you would watch like Mike and Mike or Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max in the morning or something like that. It was absolutely incredible. So we had a great time doing it. Schedules got messed up, fell out. So to where I am now, I had never really stopped doing podcasting. I've been doing it here and there. I had little spots of where I didn't do it anymore because I was too busy. But about 3 years ago, I had Damien on. Me and him did a show. Then I did one with Nikki the following week. And then I decided, I'm like, I got pretty good chemistry with these two guys. I'm like, why don't all three of us do one? We did a show and we're like, you know what? Let's do it next week. Let's do it next week. And then bam, that was it. 3 years later, here we are. We're still doing it and we're having a freaking great time. So it wasn't planned at all. It was more of an experiment that turned into a show. And it's great. And we love it.
And how I got into podcasting with a fluke. I was volunteering with a local basketball team here a couple years ago. They needed a camera guy. I'd never done camera work before. They showed me what I needed to do. They liked my work. They paid me. They referred me to this cable company that owns the Jays and the Raptors, Rogers TV here, big cable company here. And I got into them doing broadcasting work with them. And then it led to my podcast show. So just being at the right place at the right time for an opportunity, I started my podcast show up, and tonight's my 229th episode.
Bravo, man. Way to go, man. Way to go. I love it. I love it.
But I have to admit, the first 4 months it was hard. I couldn't get guests on. I wasn't very good. I was only on Instagram, and then Jamie Pegley, the Philly sports guy, gave me some advice, and he told me about StreamYard, and he's been a big help. And then once I got one guest on, I've been able to get guys on from every league in the States and in Canada as well. So I'm very lucky that sense, and I'm really working on a new career in radio. And right now I'm doing TV work and also the podcasting side. So I'm learning both sides of the industry.
That's freaking great, man. I'm very happy. I didn't know all that. That's awesome. That is really and talk about being in the right place at the right time. Timing is everything. And then boom, look what takes off. And you're doing your thing now. You're a pro. If I didn't know, I'd be like, oh, look who's on again. It's Chris's show. Great. Awesome. I love it. You're doing a great job, man. I got to tell you.
And I like being the underdog. I guess I'm sort of like, my favorite movie is Rocky, and the reason I love the Eagles is because they're always underdogs, and I want to prove to people too, and in the industry as well. Just because somebody's 50 doesn't mean they can't do the job.
That's
or
right.
be passionate. So yeah, and I don't feel 50, but I am. But this is something I have a passion for, and I really enjoy it. And I love storytelling, either doing the camera work and painting a picture by the camera, or learning stories from my guests. Because every time a guest comes on, I learn something new, and I love the learning aspect of the industry.
That's really cool. That's awesome. And, it's a lot of fun when you have guests. And like, I'll do a solo show and I'll run like 20 minutes because I'm the only one talking. But when it's just like, me and you, or, you're having a couple of guests, it's so much more fun to have that dialogue, that debate, that discussion. And like you said, it brings so much more out. You learn about things and you learn about people. And it's like, oh, I never thought of that aspect. That's kind of interesting. So yeah, it's really cool to have shows like this, man. It's great.
And I tell people, it's a lot. People think, oh, podcast at home is easy. It's a lot of work. You've got to produce your shows. You got to book guests, and sometimes guests cancel out on you. You have to promote yourself as well, and you need to study up on your guests as well. Do your homework as well. So there's a lot of preparation and a lot of homework, and it's not as easy as people think.
No, I mean, if anybody thinks it's easy and they haven't done it before, let them go on the mic and do what we're doing right now. I bet they'd be like this, and we're going to start, they'd be stuttering all over the place because they wouldn't know what the heck to do with themselves. You can't just get on here and think like, oh, okay, I'm going to be the best. It does take a little bit. Even like the best that are out there, some of the best podcast hosts that I know, and even guys on TV, it took them a long time to get to where they were. It's not something that you just wake up with overnight. It's like, oh yeah, I could do this. It takes a little bit of time. So we both have got there, my friend.
And I've learned too, there's sometimes guests where it takes a few minutes to get them to get comfortable with you. And there's sometimes you have guests how you have instant chemistry and stuff with as well. So it just depends.
It does. It does. And that's the thing. As a host, you got to feel that out. You got to know your audience like you were talking about before. You got to do a little background, know what you're getting into before you get into it, and then feel them out. Are they an exciting guest? Are they just somebody who's going to give you, like 3, word answers or something like that? So, yeah, you got to understand who you're working with. No doubt about it, because God knows I've had all from every end of the spectrum. And if I have a dull guest on, believe me, that interview is going to be a lot shorter than I had anticipated.
But one thing too, I've also learned, Jason, sometimes you feel like you do really good shows and have really good guests, and then your ratings or views aren't great. And then sometimes you feel you didn't do a good job. And it's funny how things work on YouTube and social media platforms, because sometimes you feel good about a show and it doesn't do well rating wise, and then just the opposite as well.
You know what it is, man? Sometimes I'll feel like, I always feel like the three of us have a great show, me, Damien, and Nikki, but some are better than others. Like, we'll get off and be like, wow, we had a great time. That was awesome. Because we don't rehearse a damn thing. We just go on and bam, that's it. We just do our thing. So I know what you mean. Like, I'll have a lot more ratings, a lot more views and everything like that for a show that I didn't think that we did so well, as opposed to a show that I thought kicked butt. And you know what it is? Again, timing. Some people are just there at that time listening. Sometimes they're not. It depends what's going on. Is there a game on? Are they out to dinner? Are they having a freaking birthday? Whatever it is. So it's a lot of that. Like, are they around at that time? If they are, they're going to listen. If not, well, they have a life. They're doing other things.
That's true. One thing also, Jason, I learned this too from Eric Smith, the voice of the Toronto Raptors as well. When I first started, I was scripting everything, and he said it's okay to write some points down on paper, but it makes better podcast show if you talk to your guests, like we're at an arena or coffee shop, etc.,
Yes.
and learn how to ad lib. And I think I've worked on that in the last couple of years as well, learning just to have a conversation without having everything scripted.
I can tell that right now. I don't think that you're reading off a damn thing. So that's pretty obvious that you were just having a conversation. And that's why I said the three of us on Third and Three podcast, there's literally nothing scripted. The only thing that we know that we're doing on that show is that we're picking games. We don't know who's picking what. We don't know what we're going to be talking about. So that's why I like it, because, again, the rehearsal part of it, then it doesn't feel natural. I want it to feel natural, and I want it to all come out that way and be more spontaneous. And the more you think about what you're going to say, the less it comes out right. So I'm with you, man. I don't like scripts. I have an outline of what we're going to be doing.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's it. So, okay, here's what we're going to talk about. Here's what we're going to talk about, but there's no script whatsoever.
All right. And that leads to my next question as well, Jason. How long have you been a 49ers fan? And did you ever get to attend a game at Candlestick Park before they
Yes.
demolished it? And
Yes.
what was it? What was that like?
Well, it was the only time I've ever been out to California. So I saw them play the Rams, and they actually won the game. It was 28-20. Steve Young was playing back then. All right. It was before the Rams got Kurt Warner and all those guys. So only time I ever got to Kansas Park, because I grew up in New York. Right now I live in Florida, so it was almost impossible. But I've seen the 49ers down here play against Miami, so I've got a chance to see them. But being in that atmosphere, and I was, 17, I think, at the time. And I mean, I knew every stat of every player, everything, every number of everybody. I'm in the stands cheer. People looking at me like, this kid knows like everything about football, man, about the San Francisco. I'm like, I was in my glory. So it was an absolutely amazing time. But as the years have gone on, I even appreciate it more now. I try to get as close as I can. Like if they come to Miami or when they go to New York, if they play the Jets or the Giants, I try to get the best seats possible, man. I want to be up close because it is fantastic. I'm not a fanatic. I'm not like a fan of like teams and players so much as I am the 49ers. That's just like one of my babies. But it is very cool to have that experience and be there and see how freaking tremendous these guys are and their ability and how athletic they are. It's amazing. And when it's your team that you're watching, it's that much more fun, especially when they win.
Being an Eagles fan, I like to think we have the best fan base. But one thing with the Niners, I've been to 5 Niners games with my friend Todd, road games, not in San Francisco for myself, but they have a very solid fan base that travels with the team. And it's just amazing. Like some of these people travel from all across the country or even Canada to go see the Niners play. Now, I got to ask you this favorite 49er moment so far? And do you have one particular play in Niners history that's your favorite?
I do. And it's ironic because it's my least favorite 49er of all time, and that would be Terrell Owens. It's when we played the Packers in the 1998 playoffs, and you already know what play I'm talking about.
Oh,
but
yeah.
The whole deal is that, Chris, we hadn't beat the Packers in the playoffs for 5 years. They kept kicking our butt every single. It's like enough is enough. Brett Favre, get the hell out of here. I couldn't take it anymore. They kept beating us every time we played them. So even though that was only a wild card game, all right, it wasn't even for the conference championship or anything. That was a wild card game in the first round when Steve Young stumbles back and then just heaves it over the middle, and Owens catches that thing after dropping about 5 balls earlier in that game. Owens, he caught it. You know, the catch too. I remember literally tears were coming out of my eyes because we finally beat the damn Green Bay Packers. Yep, we got our ass kicked the next week against the Atlanta Falcons, who went on to lose the Super Bowl against the Denver Broncos that year. But my God, that moment was even better than any of the Super Bowls because of what it meant to finally beat Green Bay, and to do it in that fashion was incredible.
For me as a football fan, it's still got to be the 82 NFC Championship against Dallas. For years, Dallas dominated the Niners. The Niners couldn't get over the hump. And that throw by Montana to Dwight Clark, as a 10-year-old kid who was an Eagles fan, I hated Dallas as much as anyone. And I still, to this day, I was so happy the Niners finally beat Dallas and eliminated the Dallas curse. And then they ended up becoming a dynasty. And back then, even though they didn't play the Eagles, I would be cheering for the Niners. And I have a Joe Montana signed card as well. But for me, the 82 NFC Championship game, is my favorite 49ers moment with Montana to Clark. And some people aren't going to like this, but to me, Joe Montana is still the GOAT.
Oh, I love it. I love you saying that right there. That's a beautiful thing. It's just different now. I know Brady's won his 7 titles and he's won with 2 different teams. I understand, but damn, Joe was just so perfect. It's like you knew when he had the ball, nothing bad was going to happen. You were going to win the game. So you know what? A lot of people still say Montana. I mean, more people, yes, they're on Brady now, and I totally understand. And if people say Brady's the best of all time, I'm not even going to argue with him. All right, you got 7 championships. He's got all these records. He's got everything. Blah blah blah. But I can probably name you 7 or 8 quarterbacks I'd rather have over him right now to start a team.
Absolutely. And I keep telling people it's a different era. Back then, Montana, Elway, Kelly, Marino, they took shots. They got hurt.
Oh,
And
yeah.
a reason a lot of guys back in the 70s and 80s, they retired in their 30s, early 30s. And because the game has changed so much, quarterbacks hardly get touched now. That's why Brady, I'm going to say this, Brady's been able to play to 45 because he doesn't have to worry about major injuries. Other than the one ACL tear from 2008, which was kind of a fluke accident.
Right. Right. And you know what? They've changed the rule as a result of that. They don't let you go down to the below the knees anymore on a quarterback. And that's what happened to Brady in that Kansas City game the first week of 2008 or whatever it was. Yeah. I know exactly right. It is a different era. And that's, like Peyton Manning, he was able to stay healthy for all that time because they make these rules to keep, and I get it. They want to keep people healthy and safe and everything. And yes, the quarterback is the star of the team, the star of the league, the star of the game, the star of your day, everything. So you want the quarterbacks in there, but it's getting a little bit too fluffy now. I mean, some of these roughing the passer calls are just insane. Stop.
Yeah, I the other day I made a tweet and I said the National Football League is now becoming the National Flag Football League.
Yeah, it really is. And it's ironic that they're playing a flag football game as the Pro Bowl now instead of actually putting on helmets and pads, which you know what? I'm fine with because they pretty much play flag football anyway for the Pro Bowl as it is.
To be honest, the CFL got rid of their All-Star game back in the 80s, and I've never been a fan of an All-Star game for football. The sport, you can't play the game the right way, and you don't want to see guys get hurt in a meaningless game. To me, football is not feasible for an All-Star game, in my opinion.
No, totally agree, especially at the end of the year when everybody is as hurt as they could possibly be. I mean, at the end of the year, that's when everybody's at the most hurt. All they want to do is go relax and lay on a beach somewhere in Hawaii, for God's sake, not play the Pro Bowl in Hawaii. So, no, I'm with you 100%, man. It doesn't make sense. And when you talked about skills competitions earlier, I want to see skills competition in the Pro Bowl. That's fun, not in the game or anything like that. That's like, hockey does it.
Yeah.
Basketball. That's great. I love that. I want to see which quarterback is going to throw it the furthest. All right. I want to see which running back is going to run the fastest. I want to see which wide receiver is going to make the greatest catch. Just whatever weird games that they could play. Put that stuff in there. That's more fun.
Absolutely. Jason, do you have a few more minutes for a few more quick questions?
Sure, why not?
Okay, yeah, because I know there's a big Monday night game on tonight between the Rams and Packers. Obviously, the NFL thought this game was going to mean something, but unfortunately, the Rams 4-9. The Packers are technically still in it, but I can't see Green Bay getting in this year, even with Aaron Rodgers back. And that's another subject for another day. But this one I wanted to ask you, being a Niners fan as well. Which Niners players have stepped up their game this season, in your opinion?
Ooh, well, the first guy that comes to mind is Talanoa Hufanga, our safety, who nobody knew who the hell he was, including myself when the year started. This guy's turned out to be like the second coming of Troy Polamalu. He has been all over the place, man, making tackles, getting interceptions, doing absolutely everything. So I would say that he's been the guy, our safety, Hufanga came out of nowhere to play excellent freaking football. And he's one of the big reasons why our defense is where it is right now. Also, Charvarius Ward, who got traded over from Kansas City. We picked him up in free agency, the Niners cornerback. He's been shutting guys down. Again, he's been shutting people down. So I'd say those two guys on defense, maybe the two biggest ones that, my eyes are popping open with. But Hufanga, by far, did not see this coming. And if he wasn't playing as good as he is right now, 49ers wouldn't be where they are.
Is there an X factor on this 49er team who could be an X factor in the playoffs?
It's got to be Debo because he does so many things. I mean, again, you can give this guy a 5-yard hitch and he can take it to the house. You can give him a jet sweep and he's going to take it to the house. And he's also so strong that he will run over you and he'll run around you and he'll jump over you. He is absolutely the X factor. There's no question about it. When that guy has the ball in his hands, he's probably more dangerous than anybody in the league except for maybe Derrick Henry. He's the only other guy I would not want to think, I don't want to tackle him. Debo is not a guy you want to tackle, and he's really not a guy that you can tackle very easily. So, yeah, he even above McCaffrey, Ayuk, even Kyle Juszczyk, who is definitely an X factor, but the biggest one, it's still Debo. Still Debo.
Definitely. What are your thoughts on John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan overall?
Marriage made in heaven, man. It's been an unbelievable thing. They share a mind. It's amazing. What one thinks, the other one thinks, they agree on, they move forward with it, and it seems to work out. Those two guys are going to be there pretty much as long as they want to. All right. They're going to get another extension probably in a year or two. They're going to make plenty of money. It's perfect. What we have over here is something not to be toyed with. We got a good GM who was a former football player, which I like a lot because he understands the game on the field and off the field, and Kyle Shanahan, who comes from a football family tree, and look at the great job that he's doing right now, and he's got his players playing for him. I want these guys to be around for a long time. I am very, very pleased.
Thoughts on Jerry Rice being he has been critical of Kyle Shanahan at some point. I know with the Deebo Samuel injury, he recently tweeted about stop running him up the middle and stop getting him hurt tweets.
Well, Jerry Rice has got to understand that, he doesn't have the skills that Debo actually does, believe it or not. Debo is more skilled and he can do more things than Jerry Rice could. It pains me to say that. But the reason why Deebo Samuel is not just because he can catch a pass. It's because he can take it from out of the backfield and do something with it. He can throw the ball. He can do this. He can do that. So you know what? It's like I don't know. It's like asking. I'm trying to think of like a good comparison of telling somebody not to do something they're great at to stop. It's like telling Lamar Jackson not to run the football either. Like, but no, of course he's going to run the football. That's what makes him so great. That's part of what makes him great. He can throw. He can run. So as far as Debo goes, no, we don't need to run him out of the backfield as much anymore because we got McCaffrey. But when you put him back there, it's okay. Debo's in the backfield. We got to see what's going on right now. Where's everybody else? What are they going to do? So if anything, it confuses the defense. And if anything, it can act as a decoy, Debo. You don't even have to give him the ball. But if he's in the backfield, teams are going to be wondering, ooh, what's going on now?
How much of an impact has McCaffrey been? And what was your thoughts and feelings when they acquired him from Carolina?
I couldn't believe it because the Niners would never make moves like this. I don't ever recall the 49ers making a midseason move or even an offseason move to get a player like that. And he fits in like an absolute glove because we love running the football and he is running great. He's fitting our scheme perfectly. It's such a beautiful thing because, again, we couldn't rely on Elijah Mitchell, unfortunately, the rookie from last year who played great, got hurt last year, got hurt again this year. And we didn't have any other running backs that really shine. And we thought to ourselves, well, if a Debo goes down or if George Kittle goes down, which they both have in the recent past, they need another playmaker. And they said, you know what? We have a great team right now, offense, defensive line. Let's go get another playmaker. Let's go for it this year. That's exactly what they did, and I freaking love it.
Do you feel this Niner team is better than they were last year?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I definitely do because the defense is playing better. Again, we have that the secondary is playing better, which is a huge thing. Our secondary was a weak spot for us last year. They've stepped up again with the addition of Hufanga, like I said, and now I feel like they have more ways to score. It's not just we're so reliant on Debo now because Kittle was hurt for most of last year, and Ayuk really hadn't come into his own yet. He has started to now, but we were so reliant on Debo. Now it's not. Ayuk has become a good player. We know what Christian McCaffrey can do. George Kittle is healthy. So now there are other guys that get involved.
In terms of great tight ends in San Francisco 49er history, where does George Kittle rank, in your opinion?
Ooh, right under Brent Jones and right before Vernon Davis. I got to give it to Brent Jones all time. He was just, I know people don't really know him. A lot of people who are 20, 25 years old listening to this right now, who the fuck is Brent Jones? Brent Jones is one of the best tight ends back in the 80s and early 90s. He was fantastic. He was a blocker. He can also catch, and he made plays, and he scored, and he got the ball in the end zone. I loved watching Vernon Davis. He was more athletic, but he couldn't block as well. So I put Kittle right in the middle because Kittle can block, and he can be electric. But what Brent Jones did for that long, I still give my love to him.
And you can't forget Dwight Clark, too.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah, some people like to call him a receiver. Some like to call him a tight end. Call him whatever you want to. He was fantastic.
Absolutely. And just a couple quick questions I wanted to talk to you about. Jason, Who do you see getting into the AFC and NFC playoffs, and who are some of the dark horses teams to watch out for in the AFC and NFC?
Well, in the NFC, I had at the beginning of the year, we make our predictions and all our picks, and I had the Lions being the seventh seed, and that's still very possible. And
Yep.
nobody's going to really want to play the Lions if they actually do get in because their offense is really good. They can run the ball, they can throw the ball with St. Brown, Jamal Williams, DeAndre Swift. Um, as far as another team sneaking in that you really wouldn't want to play, I would think if the Chargers got hot, if Brandon Staley or Brandon Faley, as I like to call him, could figure out how to coach a freaking game, the Chargers could be lethal with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and Austin Eckler. And if that defense gets healthy, that'll be a team that nobody really wants to play either, would be the Chargers. But right now, I think the team that nobody at all wants to play and doesn't want to mess with, even though they had a slight hiccup this weekend, but they ended up coming back in the second half, is the freaking Bengals, man. The Cincinnati Bengals are playing lights out right now.
I brought this up on my last show, and guys were like, "Why are you calling the AFC champions dark horses?" And I said, "Because everybody's been focused on Buffalo, Kansas City, and Cincinnati did get off to a slow start 0-2, but the Cincinnati Bengals, to me, right now, 10-4. They've won 6 in a row. They're playing very good football on both sides of the ball right now, and Joe Burrow is looking like another young Tom Brady.
Ooh.
Obviously, it's too early to compare him yet, but I think Cincinnati is not going to be an easy out in the AFC playoffs. And I agree with you on the Detroit Lions. Another team I'd look out for in the AFC. I'm not sure they're going to get in this year. Doug Peterson's done a great job. The Jacksonville Jaguars, just for them to even be 6-8 and to do us all a favor and beat the Dallas Cowboys yesterday, that was just such an awesome win for that franchise. They haven't had a lot of success in their time, and I think Doug Peterson is a very good head coach. I wish he was still in Philly, but unfortunately things happen for a reason. And Jacksonville, the team, if they could get in, that's a team I would be, I'd be leery about. Trevor Lawrence is starting to develop as a quarterback now.
No doubt. And you can see why they picked him first overall. He's becoming that quarterback where you can say, okay, this guy is going to be their quarterback for the next 12, 15 years, whatever it is, and however long his hair is going to grow. Excuse me. They definitely made the right decision over there. And Jacksonville has been hot right now. Look, they were down 27-10 yesterday. They came back and they beat that. They put up 40 points. That's the first time they scored 40 points and since like 2017 or something like that. So they are scoring. And guys like Zay Jones, Marvin Jones, all right, Christian Kirk, who got the crazy deal right now. These aren't like household names that people know about, but you know what? Trevor Lawrence is delivering the ball, getting it to them, and running around and scrambling out of the pocket and doing such great things that I'm with you. You don't want to play Jacksonville right now because they're, their offense, they can score now at any time. Travis Etienne is a lightning type running back. And their defense is playing better as well. They've been playing much better football. And if they can somehow win this division, yeah, you're not going to want to play them.
And I was going to say this year, you've seen long-suffering teams like the Jets, who are obviously struggling now, but they're now 7-7. They're in a hunt for a playoff spot. The Jaguars are 6-8, and they're improving. The Detroit Lions. It's nice to see some of these franchises that have been down in the dumps for many decades start to show improvement, and possibly one or two of them could be a playoff team this year as well.
Yeah, that is nice to see. We use that word parity in football, and it is nice to see. And we still have our Houston Texans out there who are like never going to win games. We understand that, but for the most part, yeah, like every other, like the Bengals 3 years ago, everybody's like, oh, the Bengals, they haven't won a playoff game since 1991. Now look at them. They're going to be a perennial Super Bowl team. They're going to be in the mix every single year. So yeah, Houston, they'll get it together at some point. It may take another 10 years, but no, it's nice to see other teams come around. And especially the Bengals last year, where they were just the laughing stock of football for the longest time. For them to get to the Super Bowl, that just flips everything around, changes it, and goes to show you that, you know what? You pick the right guy. You get Joe Burrow. it's Joe Burrow. Let's not get crazy. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the freaking world, but that's how quickly you can change your franchise around. And that's what's hopefully going to happen with Jacksonville right now with Lawrence.
And look at Buffalo; they missed the playoffs 17 years in a row.
Yeah.
And then they finally brought in Josh Allen, brought in Sean McDermott, they brought in Brandon Beane, the GM from Carolina. They now have stability with management, ownership, and it all starts with the head coach and the quarterback. And then they built their team around the O-line and D-line. And to me in football, I'm still old school. You need your franchise quarterback, obviously, in most cases, but it all starts with an O-line and D-line.
Yes. Always.
Okay. And I have one other question I wanted to ask you about the Bengals before I let you go. Do you feel the Cincinnati Bengals get enough respect from the national media?
I think they're starting to just now. They haven't for a while. And you're right. You're good to ask that question because they really haven't. I think that after the Buffalo game, if they beat Buffalo, then I think all the talk is going to be about the Cincinnati Bengals. So that's going to be a great game. I can't wait to see. I'm not even sure who's going to win that game. That's going to be a tough one. But they're starting to, because now Joe Burrow has entered into the MVP conversation. You got Hurts, you got Mahomes, you got Allen, and now Joe Burrow is there. And if he keeps playing the way he is, he may catapult himself into that number one spot because Mahomes is throwing a bunch of interceptions. Jalen Hurts now being hurt. Is that going to hurt his chances? No pun intended. Josh Allen, let's see what he could. But no, I think that now they're starting to get the recognition because people are finally starting to say Joe Burrow is legit an MVP conversation guy and really one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So they're finally starting to get it.
I totally agree with you. Now, I'm going to wrap this up. You guys have 3 games left. You're taking on Washington, the Raiders, and Arizona. The Washington game, they have a decent defense, and to them, this is going to be like a playoff game for Washington because them losing last night, now they're 7-6-1. How do you feel the Niners will come out against the Washington Commanders?
Look, they're a better team. Just don't play down to the level of your competition. The 49ers have been guilty of that a couple of times this season. Don't play to the level of your competition. Go out there and say, you know what, we want to get the highest seed possible. Maybe even, take over Minnesota for the second seed, whatever it is, if that's really important to them. But they need to play every game as if it's a playoff game because that's what you're getting prepared for. You're getting ready to go into the playoffs. You've already made it. So you want to keep that swag going, that camaraderie going, that win streak going. Keep it all going. You want to have that. You want to have that going into the playoffs, not where, we lost a couple of games at the end of the season. Let's figure out what we got to do here and there. No, fix your problems in season, whatever it is. So by the time the playoffs comes around, we're ready to go. So I think that Washington, we're a better team. Should be no problem. We should take care of them.
Is there any team in the NFC playoffs that you don't feel the Niners would match up well with? Or do you feel any matchup the Niners have a really good chance of winning the game or being in it?
This is going to sound really strange, all right? I think the Niners match up well with the Eagles, the Cowboys. They don't match up that well with the Vikings. I know that is weird because the Vikings are not one of my teams who I think is actually going to come out. But a guy like Justin Jefferson can tear us apart. A wide receiver like that, Javarius Ward, cannot lock down. And then if we concentrate too much in the secondary, they got freaking Dalvin Cook, and he can run the hell out of the ball. So I do worry about that. And if the 49ers are having problems on offense, Minnesota's not the greatest defense. The one thing they're not really good at is against the pass, but the 49ers aren't a great passing team. So when I say matchup-wise, I'm not saying that Minnesota's better than San Fran, but I'm saying that that's a bad matchup for us. It's a little worse than if we were to play Dallas or Philadelphia. Sounds really strange, but it's mainly because of Justin Jefferson and then Dalvin Cook. It's a tough combination to deal with.
Because you know this as well as I do, Jason. In any sports, you can have all the talent you want, but matchups, especially in the playoffs, are huge because certain teams don't match up with other teams, and you just never know. Especially in a one-game winner-takes-all type playoff. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly. And that's why I didn't say Tampa Bay because we just beat the crap out of them 35-7 last week. So we know that they're not a matchup. But no, I mean, yeah, I'm not taking anything away from Philly and Dallas. Just that Minnesota would be a scary matchup because they can put up a lot of points.
And quick question here before I let you go again. Tampa Bay, Tom Brady, is he going to come back next year? And if he does come back, do you see him back with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
I really hope he doesn't come back, to be honest. I think it's enough. Like, I don't think that he has got it anymore. He's lost a lot of years on his life this year. He looks disheveled. He's pissed off every damn game all over the place. And I feel like he's losing the locker room if he hasn't lost it already. The only reason why he still has it is because his name is Tom Brady. But the way that he acts, his players can't really like that. So what I'm saying is that I don't think that he has it anymore. And if he's looking to say, I don't want to go out like that, okay, I get the competitiveness in you, but at the same time, you got to sit back and say, you know what? What else do I have to prove? I've done it all. Do I really want to go through a whole nother offseason? Do I really want to get punished and beaten up and this and that and the other thing? So I say no, I think he's done. But if he does come back, I can't see him being anywhere else but Tampa Bay, because you know what? At this point, I don't know too many teams that want Tom Brady anymore.
I totally agree with you. And what does he have left to prove?
Nothing. That's the thing. Like, he's already proven statistically he is the greatest quarterback that ever lived, and it's going to take light years for anybody to catch him. So from that respect, nothing at all. So if I were him, and I'm not, and again, I don't have his competitive fire and juice, and I guess I'll never understand that coming from a champion like him, but if he wants to come back, he's got to want to come back to win, not just to prove and say, well, that was a bad year for me. Look what I could do now at 46 years old. That's not the right reasons. He's got to come back to want to win, and I don't know if this Tampa Bay team is good enough to win it.
Absolutely agree with you. Where can my audience in Ontario follow you on social media and to watch and listen to your podcast shows?
Well, thanks, man. I really appreciate it, Chris. I had a blast talking with you, bro. It felt like 5 minutes. I don't even know how long it's been going on, but it felt like a 5-minute show because it's been fun, man. But look, I'm do most of my action on Twitter. I'm at Sports Prophet One, prophet like as in prophecy, and that's the number one. The Power 32 podcast, we usually do that show on Friday. I'll have a couple of guests come on. We'll pick the games against the spread. We'll talk about what's going on in the league and whatnot, get ready for playoff action. But Third and Three podcast every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern time. That's when me, Nikki, and Damien get together and just do our thing. We have our freaky fantasy football draft where we pick different players every week. And once we pick a player, we can't use them for the rest of the year. That's a year-long competition. We go at each other weekly. We have our locks. We have our best bets. We have our parlays that we call them instead of parlays because we're trying to get you paid. So we have a great time doing it, man. So Wednesday, 7 o'clock Eastern, you can check us out. We're doing it on StreamYard, but we're linked into YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and all that crap. So we're all over the place. And if you don't catch us live, you can hear us on Spotify, on Apple, Google, all those other podcast spots. So not hard to find. Third and Three podcast, put it into your little search bar. You'll find us.
I've already subscribed, and I enjoy watching you guys live and putting in my 2 cents with the comment section as well.
It was great having you there, man. I'm like, oh, this is this guy. I'm like, I love this guy, Chris, over here bringing in the comments. It was a beautiful thing, man. So it was a great way to get the introduction going.
Hey, and I want to say thank you so much, Jason, for coming on season 5, episode 9 of Live with CDP Sports Talk. And I definitely would like to have you come back on again. Nikki was a great guest, and I'm hoping maybe I can one day have Damien on as well to talk sports as well. And keep up the great work you're doing as well. And one thing with this podcast, I've made a lot of new connections, but I've also made a lot of new friendships doing this as well.
Very nice. And you know what? That's the beautiful thing about it. It's not just people you talk in sports with. Now it's like people that you can communicate with. It's like, you know what? Maybe I haven't met you physically. I haven't been to Canada yet to come meet you. But you know what? Don't need that anymore. We're in 2022. It's going to be 2023. Virtual relationships are what it's all about. So definitely happy to make a new friend, man, without a doubt.
Absolutely. And hey, I want to wish you and your family a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and all the best to you in 2023. Continued success on your shows and for your 49ers, as long as you're not playing the Philadelphia Eagles.
Fair enough. Hey, you know what? I'll take this. I hope we play each other in the NFC Championship, so one of us will be happy going forward. So I'll take that right there.
Absolutely. And that would, I think, be a great game. And who knows? We'll see what happens. But
if that happens, we'll have to do a show together. We'll have to do a pregame show if that does happen.
Absolutely. And we also have another thing in common, our dislike of the Dallas Cowboys.
Yes, very much so.
Yes, definitely. But Jason, have a great night. Enjoy the Monday Night Football game. And we'll definitely turn into your podcast shows this week. And thank you so much again for giving me an hour of your time and coming on live with CDP Sports Talk.
I appreciate it, Chris. Thank you so much. And again, happy and healthy to you as well, and to you and your family, man. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you, Jason, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good to me, man. All right, take care. Thank you.
Good night. You too. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed Season 5, Episode 9 of Live with CDP Sports Talk, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet here in Guelph, with my guest, Jason Feirman, who's the host of the Power 32 NFL podcast and also the Third and Three podcast as well. And Jason is also a huge San Francisco 49ers fan as well. Before we wrap up the podcast show for tonight, guys. I'm going to show you a little video clip, courtesy of the NFL's YouTube channel of the crazy ending last night with the Patriots and Raiders in Las Vegas.
Mac Hollins out on defense. He's all the way back. Stevenson
is anyone going to
is inside the 30, flips it back. Stanford band nowhere in sight.
Uh-oh.
It's picked off.
Oh, oh no.
Unbelievable.
Oh, wow.
Incredible. Chandler Jones takes it in and wins the game for the Raiders. Have you ever seen an ending like that?
I've never seen anything like that. I have no idea why he was doing that. Oh, my goodness.
Here's another look.
Okay, so everyone is back as expected. The Patriots are really running the ball to get to overtime. And then Ramondre Stevenson decides he's going to lateral it back to Jacoby Myers. And Jacoby Myers, I know that this was not the play call. He decides he's going to throw it to Mac Jones, and Chandler Jones takes advantage of the opportunity, stiff boys Mac Jones on his way to a touchdown. I have no idea what Jacoby Myers was doing. Chandler Jones gets Mac Jones with the stiff arm and the touchdown.
Friday will be the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception.
I'm in disbelief.
What are they going to call this one?
I don't know, man. I am in disbelief.
Anyways, guys, that clip was courtesy of the National Football League's YouTube channel. I call that play the Immaculate Lateral. And ironically, 50 years after the Immaculate Reception at Three Rivers Stadium between the Steelers and Raiders. And that was the first time the Raiders franchise, even when they were back in Oakland, have beaten the New England Patriots. They had lost their last 6 meetings against New England and hadn't beaten the Patriots since the regular season of 2002 as well. And speaking of the Raiders take on the Steelers this Saturday night at Heinz Field, formerly known as Heinz Field. They changed the name of the stadium, but it'll be 50 years to the fact after the Immaculate Reception happened in 1972 at Three River Stadiums. I was born in 72, but I don't remember that game as I was only 6 months old at the time. So looking forward to that as well, guys. By the way, I've got a doubleheader podcast Wednesday. December 21st, at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, I have Kelly Tyan coming on my podcast show. She is a podcast host, an author of her show called Addicted to the Climb, and she's also a life coach, a speaker as well. So I hope you can tune into my show at 11:30 a.m. with Kelly Tyan. Again, a life coach, speaker, author, and podcast host of Addicted to the Climb. And at 1:45 that same day, 1:45 Eastern, I'm going to have Tom Burgoyne on. He is the longtime Philly fanatic. He's been with the Philadelphia Phillies since 1989. And he also took over the full-time role of the Philadelphia Fanatic in 1994. So Tom's going to come on and talk about his 35 years playing the Philly Fanatic, the legendary and most world's famous iconic mascot, and also talk about his time with the Phillies at Veterans Stadium and at Citizens Bank Park, and also talk a little bit about the 2022 Philadelphia Phillies playoff run. And also, I believe Tom's got some Blue Jay stories to share with Joe Carter as well. So I hope you guys can tune in 11:30 a.m. Wednesday morning with Kelly Tyan, and then at 1:45, Tom Burgoyne, the mascot of the Philadelphia Phillies, the legendary Philly Fanatic as well. So I'm really looking forward to episodes 10 with Kelly and 11 with Tom as well. Also, guys, as you know, the Philadelphia Eagles today announced quarterback Jalen Hurts is uncertain to play in Saturday's big matchup against the Dallas Cowboys because of a sprained shoulder that he suffered during Sunday's victory over the Chicago Bears. This was coming out of from ESPN's Adam Scheffler as well. So we'll cross our fingers he can play Saturday, but I want Hurts to be healthy for the NFL playoffs as well. Before I wrap this up, guys, Live with CDP Sports Talk is now live streamed on 5 platforms: my YouTube channel, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And I want to say thank you to everybody for watching live on my 5 platforms as well right now. And also, you guys could follow me on my website, beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme. Again, beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme. Also, guys, Live with CDP Sports Talk is brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership, 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210 and tell them that Chris Palme, aka CDP, sent you there as well. And thank you again so much to Barry Cullen dealership for sponsoring Live with CDP Sports Talk as well. Live with CDP Sports Podcast, the audio version is downloaded to iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Stitcher, Tuned In, and Podbean. And if you guys can give me about 10 minutes, I will have this podcast show downloaded to my audio platforms as well. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP podcast as well. Great customer service there, great product. If you're into webinars or podcasting, StreamYard I highly recommend as well. You can also follow me on TikTok at Live with CDP on TikTok. I post a lot of content on there, and I also do some live videos as well. Again, I want to say thank you so much to my guest tonight, Jason Feirman, for coming on and talking about his Power 32 podcast about the NFL, Third and Three podcast, and Jason coming on and talking about his San Francisco 49ers as well. And please check out his podcast show again as well, Power 32 podcast and Third and Three podcast as well. He does a great job with Nikki and Damien, his co-hosts as well. So please check that out as well. And that's about it, guys. Again, thank you to Jason Feirman for coming on. And I hope you guys all have a great night. Enjoy the Monday night game between the Rams and Packers. And we'll see you guys Wednesday for not 1, but 2 Live with CDP Sports Talk shows. 11:30 with Kelly Tyen, and at 1:45 with Tom Burgoyne, known as the Philly Fanatic, the world's most famous mascot. So I hope you guys can tune in there as well. In case some of you guys aren't able to tune in on Wednesday, want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, or for some that don't celebrate Christmas, Happy Holidays and Happy New Year in 2023. And I am working hard to bring on more great guests for the end of 2022 and going into the new year as well. That's about it. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening to Live with CDP Sports Talk, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Have a great night, guys, and we'll see you Wednesday morning, 11:30 for Season 5, Episode 10 of Live with CDP Sports Talk. Good night, everybody.